Good evening. We will call this meeting of the City Council regular meeting Tuesday, April 15th, 2025 to order. And if you can, call roll call, please.
Mayor, would you like?
Oh, sorry, Pledge of Allegiance first. Thank you. Thank you. Now roll call, please.
Bowling.
Here.
Freed.
Here.
Lockhart.
Here.
Newman.
Here.
O'Doherty.
Here.
Shumway.
Here.
Behill.
Here.
Richardson.
Here.
And Cumby.
Here.
That's 9 present and 0 absent.
Thank you, City Clerk. Next item is public comment on non-agenda items. So anything that is not on the agenda tonight that people would like to speak to that is pertaining to city matters. Anything? Anybody? Anyone online? Okay. All right. We'll close that out. Over to Councilor O'Doherty for changes to the agenda.
I think you need to do A first.
Oh, thank you. Let's see here. Oh, sorry, thank you. Public request to remove a consent agenda item and place it on the regular agenda to allow for public comments. Anybody who would like to move anything? Okay, great, thank you. And now, changes to the agenda over to Councilor O'Doherty.
I move that item number 11 from the regular agenda be removed.
Second.
Motion by O'Doherty, seconded by Newman.
Oops. Should I say?
Do we need to read the full?
Vice Mayor, if I could.
Oh, I know. Let me try again.
Okay.
I move that the following changes to the agenda be approved, that we strike item 11 from the regular agenda.
Still second.
Great. Yes,
I guess
yes,
not.
City Clerk.
Vice Mayor, it's totally fine, but if you wanted to add the rescheduling of the
Oh,
meeting.
yeah, okay.
Now
I
would be
thought
the-
that would be a good place for it, too. And then that we reschedule, or that item number 9 and I show the reschedule of the work session and special meeting from Wednesday, May 21st, be moved to Monday, May 19th.
I still second.
And Newman seconds that as well. All right. Any discussion from the council on those two items? Any comment from the public? All right. Do we need a roll call on that, Nancy, or all in favor?
Typically, we
Thank
do
you.
a voice vote.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. And next, we will move on to, yes, setting the agenda. Right. Moving on to setting the agenda, and I'll move that over to Councilor O'Doherty again.
I move that the agenda be set as changed.
Second.
Motion by O'Doherty, second by Shumway. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Great, that passes. All right. Now on to proclamations and public hearings. And we've got one proclamation tonight, which is on Child Abuse Prevention Month. Whereas prevention is possible with the right policies and investments, families and children can thrive and avoid contact with child welfare and other costly systems. And whereas the early experiences of a child impact them throughout life, both positively and negatively. And whereas every family and child is filled with tremendous promise, and we all have a collective responsibility to prevent adverse childhood experiences, foster the potential of every child, and promote positive childhood experiences. And whereas positive childhood experiences, PCEs, such as loving caregivers and safe, stable, and nurturing relationships play a vital role in helping children thrive by mitigating trauma and the negative impact of adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, and whereas families who receive the support they need before a crisis occur are better equipped to provide safe, healthy, and nurturing environments, leading to children who are safer, healthier, and more hopeful about their futures. And whereas childhood trauma, including abuse and neglect, can have long-term psychological, emotional, and physical effects throughout an individual's lifetime and impact future generations, and whereas primary prevention of child abuse and neglect can reduce the lifetime economic burden associated with child maltreatment, and whereas strengthening families through access to concrete economic, social, and community-based supports reduces the likelihood of abuse and neglect and ensures children have the foundation for lifelong well-being, and whereas effective child abuse prevention activities succeed because of the partnerships created between child welfare professionals, education, health, community and faith-based organizations, businesses, law enforcement agencies, and families. And whereas communities must make every effort to promote programs and activities that create strong and thriving children and families. And whereas we acknowledge that we must work together as a community to increase awareness about child abuse and contribute to promoting the social and emotional well-being of children and families in a safe, stable, and nurturing environment. And whereas investments in prevention initiatives such as home visiting programs, family strengthening policies, economic supports, and community-based child abuse prevention efforts are essential to building safer, healthier communities for children and families. And whereas prevention remains the best defense for our children and families. Now, therefore, I, Micah Richardson, serving as Vice Mayor of the governing body of the City of Laramie, Wyoming, do hereby proclaim April 2025 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in the City of Laramie and urge all citizens to recognize this month by dedicating ourselves to the task of improving the quality of life for all children and families. Together, we can create a state where every child can grow up happy, healthy, and safe with their hope for the future. Okay. All right. And moving on to announcements.
Thank you, Mayor. We have no announcements.
Okay. So then now moving on to a lighter subject, which is monthly staff recognition. And I think, I know we've got them in the house, so.
We do. Council, I'm excited to talk to you tonight about Logan Barnes from the Laramie Fire Department. Logan's here with us, and I'll tell you a little bit about him and then invite him up to introduce himself to you. So Logan is a firefighter. He was nominated by Shift Commander EMS Division Chief Chase Bridgman to be our Employee of the Month, pointing out that Logan can't be asked to be a better partner, whether they're on the ambulance, on an engine, or in any situation. Logan is from Du Bois, started actually working in search and rescue, so kind of in this space, right, when he was in high school, and then came to Laramie to attend the university. While he was in college, he was involved in wildland firefighting and all across the U.S. Logan started with the Laramie Fire Department in 2019, and he has 2 daughters and a lovely family here in Laramie. He wanted to acknowledge the work of his teammates this month and maybe focus more on the team and the LFD, although we're going to celebrate him tonight too. He tried to get out of it. In any case, he pointed out that with all 3 ranks in the fire department, firefighters, operators, and the officer positions, that everybody is cross-trained, right? And I think you all know that. All of those individuals are cross-trained to perform in fire-based and also EMS-based positions. Logan talks about how important that team training is and that it builds trust and respect amongst those crews, and that they even practice as a team to make sure that they can anticipate how one another will react when they're in a challenging situation where decisions are made very quickly. He wanted to recognize his team because he pointed out that the fire department folks can train all day long, these are his words, but there are just some situations you can't anticipate. And so he wanted to share this recognition with our 3 injured firefighters who unfortunately were injured a month ago. That's Brothers Blake and Brock and Schilt. And so with that, I'll let him come up and tell you in his own words about himself and about his time here. Logan.
Thank you, City Manager.
Welcome.
My name is Logan Barnes. Like she said, I work for the Laramie Fire Department. I just want to say big thank you to the City of Laramie and to the Fire Department for the opportunity to be here and the opportunity to serve, and to let you know that I'm fully committed to the position and doing everything I can to help out the public and the community that we all live in. So with that, thank you for the recognition and thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you very much. And if you'd like to, you can come up and have a photo.
Sure.
She says, no, Dad, don't make me show up like that.
Wonderful. Somehow it's not surprising to hear the acknowledgement of the team. That seems to be the theme a lot with so many of our departments and those who are getting recognized. So thank you so much. Next, we will move on to disclosures and conflicts of interest. Any members who need to disclose any conflicts? All righty. And I will pass it over once again to Councilor O'Doherty for the consent agenda.
I move that the consent agenda be approved as changed, and that each specific action on the consent agenda be approved as indicated.
Second.
Motion by O'Doherty, second by Shumway, I believe, or was that Bowling? Thank you. All right. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
You know, I can't get this straight. That's all right. I'm counting on all of you guys to keep me straight. Go ahead. Thank you, Nancy.
Bowling,
Aye.
Freed,
Aye.
Lockhart,
Aye.
Newman,
Yes.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Shumway,
Yes.
Vigil,
Yes.
Richardson,
Aye.
Cumbie.
Aye.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Great, thank you. All right, moving on to the regular agenda, and we will go straight to number 12. For those of you in the room who are following along, we did remove number 11 from the regular agenda, so I will send this over to Councilor O'Doherty.
I move to approve original ordinance number 2104, amending Title 2.32 of Laramie Municipal Code related to the Environmental Advisory Committee on second reading.
We have a second.
I'll second.
Great. Motion by O'Doherty, second by Freed, and Mr. Levin.
Honorable Vice Mayor and Council, good evening. I'm here today to discuss some original ordinance changes regarding the Environmental Advisory Committee. Last year, the committee realized that bylaws didn't exist for the committee, and administrative goals of the city is to ensure that all boards and commissions have bylaws. So with that, I will read the background. The Environmental Advisory Committee met on October 3rd and December 5th, 2024 to discuss bylaws and updates to the Laramie Municipal Code. On February 6, 2025, the EAC approved the first set of bylaws created for the committee. The following changes are being recommended to Laramie Municipal Code Chapter 2.32 to prevent any conflicts between code and the bylaws. A brief summary of the proposed updates include grammatical errors, although not all are individually listed, updating the mission statement, clarification on the timing and term of the chairman and vice chair, clarification on how issues and areas of interest are brought forth to the Environmental Advisory Committee, how those topics are assessed and examined, and how recommendations are provided to City Council and the Board of County Commissioners. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Great. Any questions from the council? Any comments? Any public comments on this item? Any online? Nothing? All right, if we can go ahead and call the roll, vote.
Bowling.
Aye.
Freed.
Yes.
Lockhart.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Behill.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you. Number 13, over to Councilor Lockhart.
Start over. I move to approve original ordinance number 2100 on second reading, annexing approximately 15.79 acres of property located in unincorporated Albany County, located off of Hilltop Drive and adjacent to the municipal boundary on all sides, based on findings of fact and conclusions of law.
Second.
Moved by Lockhart, seconded by Newman, and over to you.
Yes, good evening, Vice Mayor and City Council. This property, known as the Hilltop property, is proposed for annexation. The parcel is owned by Wilco Land LLC of South Dakota, and the representative, Tom Willis, is joining us, I believe, online. This property is entirely surrounded, as mentioned in the title, by City of Laramie boundaries, and the landowner is seeking this annexation. This request provides a straightforward opportunity for us as a city to place this parcel under city jurisdiction so that it can be developed to city standards and be in alignment with city planning goals. This is second reading, but I'll still give a brief refresher because this was postponed on second reading. Annexation in Wyoming is governed by state statute, which outlines specific conditions that need to be met. And this specific annexation complies with those requirements. I'll quickly just go over those. The parcel is adjacent to the city and is a natural extension of existing neighborhoods. Municipal services such as water, sewer, trash, emergency response, mosquito control can be reasonably extended. Utility providers were notified and they don't have any objections to this annexation for providing services. And then notice requirements have been met for this annexation as well. Additionally, this annexation resolves the prohibited condition of a county island per state statute 15.1 section 406D. As far as development goes, this isn't necessarily what we're going over, but I think it's good to touch on during this annexation procedure. And I'll certainly let Mr. Willis provide any input through you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, after this. But no development proposal has been submitted at this time. However, the applicant has met with us, with city staff, as well as public works staff and fire to discuss land use and service feasibility. And any future development would, of course, have to follow city procedures, including building permits including even if it were just one house that was built on this parcel, a building permit would be required, which would need to be in the City of Laramie International Building Code. Several public comments were received, and we heard those last reading, on second reading, that addressed concerns about drainage access and neighborhood impacts. There's also an additional comment that was forwarded to you since the publishing of the agenda regarding the access around the southern portion of the lot, and there is no easement that we could find. So technically, that would be considered trespassing. Of course, if you dig into the law further, it's been used for so long that perhaps there is some avenue, but that would not involve the city as far as private adjoining landowners getting access to their backyards through an alleyway they've used for some time. So it's nothing that the city would become involved in. Physical impact, we go over in the annexation report as well. as it is an undeveloped parcel at this time, it is really valued very low. So we wouldn't really see a tremendous increase for bringing this city into a different tax district. Currently, the annual taxes are $603, and then it would be $647 when moved to a different tax district. The tax district 101, or 150, which the whole city is in. So in conclusion, this annexation meets statutory requirements, supports orderly growth, and allows the city to oversee any future development under its standards. It is supported by the landowner and offers a clean resolution to a county island within city limits. And again, Mr. Willis is here again through you, Mayor. If we want to give him a chance, I'm also glad to answer questions.
Why don't we go ahead and go to questions first, and then if there are questions that Mr. Willis can ask him, we can give him a chance to comment as well. So any questions by the council? Yes, please. Councilor Freed.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you, Philip, for the second reading of this. Kind of a random question, but is this the last county island within city limits? Do you remember? Is this the last one?
Honorable Mayor, through you, there are some areas around the intersection of Curtis Street and the interstate that are kind of iffy. So, but this is the last prominent one. I will say there may be, and this is kind of like corner crossing type stuff that we're dealing with in West Laramie, but there is one case of that. But truly, this is the one of any substance, means 17 acres within the city. So,
Thank you.
Other questions by council members? Yes, Councilor Shumway.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. I think it's Gavetier? Gavetier? Okay.
Yep.
Gavetier, okay. I asked this when we had our previous meeting, if there is any estimate of what it would be the cost for us to fully develop, if this property were fully developed, what would be the cost for us for water and sewer infrastructure? Just a ballpark.
Honorable Mayor, through you, that would be provided in the final plating process. So the maximum amount of lots that could be developed here would be determined by fire code in this instance, because it only has the one access point off of Hilltop. And that'd be 29 houses. So during final plating, the developer would provide estimates to us of what infrastructure that you just mentioned would cost. We would run that through our Public Works Department, make sure the correct amount needs to be bonded for to make sure it's all done, right, after it's approved. So I can't speak to exact costs. What I would be able to provide is some other examples from recent subdivisions we've done of estimates for infrastructure costs that have been approved by our Public Works Department, and it gives you the whole breakdown of curb, gutter, X number of feet of pipe and so forth, and what that all costs. But that is a cost that the developer is responsible for, and then it's dedicated to the city. And so that would all be taken care of through the final plating of this property.
Other questions? All right. Comments? And actually, if Mr. Willis, if you would like to comment now before council, and that way we can ask you a few questions as well if we need to. That would be great.
Honorable Mayor, or Vice Mayor, if I may follow up on council and shoot Shumway's question. Is there a desire for council to have some of those quantities? I mean, we can provide those, but just it's different for every site. We're glad to provide them. Just want to make sure that's done before third reading if desired.
Doesn't sound like it.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Mr. Willis.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I haven't prepared any remarks necessarily. You know, we have owned this property, I don't even know how long. And, you know, have been talking with Philip and some folks in the planning department about this for some time, and got the application going. So, you know, at this point, you know, we don't have any firm plans for the property. I think, you know, the annexation makes sense for all the reasons that Philip brought up. You know, we are working with Coffee Engineering, which is a company based out of Laramie that does projects like this. And, you know, we're just kind of at that early stage trying to understand what our options are for this particular property.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Willis? Okay. Any comments for Mr. Willis? Okay, any public comment on the annexation piece? We'll be talking about the zoning here as the next item, but for the annexation. Anybody? Okay, and then online. If you'll call the vote, please.
Bowling.
Aye.
Freed.
Yes.
Lockhart.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Behill.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. On to item 14, and right back to Councilor Lockhart.
Thank you, Mayor. Vice Mayor, sorry. I move to approve original ordinance number 2101 on second reading, establishing the R1 single-family residential zoning districts for an annexed property approximately 15.79 acres in size, located off of Hilltop Drive, adjacent to the municipal boundary on all sides, in accordance with findings of fact and conclusions of law.
Moved by Lockhart.
Second.
Seconded by O'Doherty. And back to you, Mr. Gabatua.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Mayor, members of council. This is second reading of this too, so I'll go through this rather quickly, but just to refresh everyone, the property is approximately 15.8 acres in size. Planning staff is recommending R1 for this parcel. The R1 zoning designation is consistent with surrounding neighborhoods, which are all also R1 in that area. And it also aligns with the comprehensive plan's future land use designation of suburban residential. The R1 zoning district ensures that any future development is, again, held to city standards and matching what is existing in that neighborhood as well. And this is important because there has been some discussion about some other lower density zoning districts. Staff currently, we've reviewed the RR zoning district, and we don't recommend that zoning district because it does introduce other permitted and conditional uses that, such as permitted manufactured home, a manufactured home park, conditionally permitted campgrounds, commercial outdoor recreation, and travel trailer parks that may not be appropriate in this context and could raise compatibility issues in that area. RR is also intended for areas with a low rate of urban population of density, which doesn't describe this parcel's location and the proximity to established neighborhoods in that area. That said, the limited residential, the LR zoning district, could be a viable alternative. It does bump the minimum lot sizes up to 5,000 square feet as a minimum lot size versus the 4,000 square feet that's in R1. However, I just want to caveat this, that with the 15 acres that we're talking about and the maximum number of lots being 29, these are going to be very large lots. I mean, if the maximum amount of 4,000 square foot lots were built there, we're talking 160, but only 29 are permitted. So they're going to be 3 to 4 times the size of of the minimum lot size anyways, just to meet fire code. So really R1 and LR, it's really a moot point in our eyes. I'd definitely like to hear from Mr. Willis and his input there. But we are recommending R1 for those reasons, and I'm glad to answer any questions.
Great, thank you, Mr. Gabatuller. Any questions from the council? Yes, Mr. Councilor Shumway.
Thank you, Your Honor. Philip. Is Hilltop designed such that it would be possible for a fire truck to go to the current structure and make a turn without having to back up or back down the hill?
Honorable Vice Mayor, through you.
Please.
So the existing home that's on that ridge, or?
Right.
Yeah. There are codes in place. Unfortunately, the fire chief has left for the evening, but the angles and so forth for roads are part of our of International Building Code and Fire Code. So I would say that if that's if that driveway at the end of Diamond Head Court is pre-existing, then I would say no, probably not. A fire truck would have a hard time getting up there. But for this, so I can't really answer that question without the fire code in front of me. However, for the new property, any driveway would have to meet the angles and the grades and stuff that are required for current fire engine sizes and such. So that is taken into account again in the plating phase. So we would ensure that all those houses would have adequate protection and spacing of fire hydrants and all that.
Follow up, any other questions? Councilor Lockhart.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Gabatuller. Did I get that right? I always say Philip. Going back to R1 versus LR, okay, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, LR being because they don't want the congestion and things of that nature. Is there any difference in code between the two that would make any changes as far as requirements on the property being built and whatnot?
Honorable Vice Mayor, through you. So the dimensional standards are going to be the biggest change, right? The minimum lot sizes. Mm-hmm. Other than that, the uses between those two districts are very similar. So I had mentioned when you go to RR, it does introduce other uses that are more appropriate for larger lots. But no, R1 and LR have very similar uses. There isn't a use that would be really incompatible with the surrounding neighborhoods that could be introduced.
Great. Thank you. Other questions? I've got one. You had mentioned that that space up there, if it were a traditional space, could house 100 different units, but because of the one road, only 29 would be able to be there. So that tells me that there will then be quite a bit of open space. Is that correct?
Yes, Vice Mayor, that is correct. I mean, with any residential development as well, code requires that open space is dedicated, or that in lieu of dedication fee is given. So with the kind of neighborhood interest and so forth of preserving some property there, it's very likely that in the plating phase we would require and move towards some type of open space requirement, because we have flexibility in requiring the park in lieu fee or the open space. So this, I think, would be a prime example of a subdivision where we would like to see some open space instead. But even if we did go the park in lieu route, I mean, we're talking very large lots with a lot of space in between.
Great.
But we do have some flexibility there.
Great. Councilor Newman.
I'm going to think outside the box for a second. So at the end of Downey, where the cul-de-sac is, if the developer bought one of those lots and made it to where they could have another entrance into their property, would that, obviously, I would assume that would change how many houses could be on the property then?
Yeah, Honorable Vice Mayor, through you, it is something we've considered.
Okay.
Certainly, it's a good point, and absolutely, I mean, it does introduce an additional access point. I just want to remind members of council, though, that through the preliminary plating and final plating phase, if you were to introduce the maximum amount, which rough numbers would be 160 units, if we're looking at 4,000 square feet a lot, a traffic impact study would need to be done. Stormwater control would need to be factored into space. That could result in the requirement of a retention pond, which that takes away land for lots. So it's like, yes, that does change it completely. It does open the door for a lot more density. So yes, I would just say yes, if that were the case and the developer were able to obtain another access point, it would change things, but we have the requirements of the plating phase that gives this body two more opportunities, preliminary plat and final plat, as well as the public to provide input on the design.
Other questions? Mr. Gabatula, I have one more follow-up to your point of, I just want to be clear, when we're talking about dedicated open space or fee in lieu of, is that something we as the city decide on or that the applicant chooses?
Vice Mayor, we do as city staff, we are able to make a recommendation in the final plat. We can provide how much the park in lieu fee would be, but then also how much open space would be required. Both there's calculations in code. And then we as staff could recommend to the applicant that, hey, for this one, we're going to want to see open space. Could you incorporate that into the design? That's what we're going to recommend approval of. So I would say, yeah, we as staff can recommend that to this body to approve.
Great, thank you for that clarification. Other questions? Last chance for questions. Oh, Councilor Doherty.
Mine's more of a comment.
Okay, are we sure?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, moving on to, let's go ahead and move on to comments on this, unless folks have a question for Mr. Willis. Okay. Yes, Councilor Bowling.
Oh, I was just going to ask if Mr. Willis would have a chance to speak to anything on number 14.
Sure. Mr. Willis, if you are wanting to share something, you are welcome to, but you are not required to. Up to you.
Yeah, no, sure. I appreciate the time. And yeah, I mean, what I would just say is, like, I can hear all the kind of excitement for, open space and how the community has really used this, parcel for a long time as kind of like a park or something like that. And, wouldn't that be cool if we could just make this a park, right now? And so, but and I mean that in all seriousness, but the discussions that we've been having with coffee is like a little bit larger lots. So I'm not an expert in the differences between, RR1 and LR1, but I would kind of go with the recommendation of planning and zoning on that.
Great, thank you. All right, moving on to public comment. Any comments by the public? It looks like it. Come on up, sir. And if you'll please state your name and make sure the mic's on, that would be great.
It is?
Great.
My name's Mark O'Dell. I've been to the previous meeting, and I'd just like to reiterate our desire in the neighborhood to minimize the impact to us. And I was actually unaware of the RR. I was the one that kind of said, let's go RR. I would like to recommend in that case the L lot size. And I think the neighborhood, if they have an open space, would like to have an input on that if we can. And actually, I talked to him and let him know, and he says that's possible. So that's about our concerns. We're just concerned about the impact environmentally and for the animals. So thank you.
Great, thank you for being here and sharing your perspective.
You're welcome, thank you.
Any other folks here in the room who would like to speak or online comment on this agenda item? All right, doesn't look like there's anyone else. So we can then at this, yes, Councilor Newman.
We have time for comments, right?
Oh, sorry, did I not do comments already? Sorry about that. Council comments, here we go. Go ahead. Councilor Newman.
So I've got a couple emails I think all of council has about changing the zoning. The reason why I wouldn't recommend it right now until there's another entrance into there, it actually doesn't do any good for us to do that because it's already way smaller. Even if we change it to LR, there's still only, the 29 lots that need to be there. And if they do, for whatever reason, buy a lot and tear down a house and make another entrance into this property, it comes in front of us 2 more times. And I think that's something that the public can have more voice on if it does have to come back to us. Right now, I think it's just redundant if we go in and start changing stuff that doesn't need to be.
Thank you, Councilor O'Doherty.
I think the hypothetical, like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where a developer would buy some houses and mow them down in order to build an interstate is really unlikely. This property is limited by the topography. There are really nice houses at the end of Downey Street. I don't see them taking down 3 houses. I'm getting homeowners to give up their property. And that street is clearly not a collector street to handle capacity of hundreds of houses. So I think that, and by my math, then it's like half-acre lots if there were 29 houses there. So it's kind of self-limiting. The Hilltop Drive is pretty, the topography helps limit it. And we have rules that if you're building a development, then, my concerns are the runoff, because I know neighbors there have had to deal with runoff, and it would be worse if there were a lot of impermeable surfaces. So that would be accounted for in the platting stage and by professional engineers. So I feel like we're lucky that the landowners are willing to annex, as we just, I guess there's one more reading. Anyway, I'm grateful for that, and then I feel like, the development is appropriate to be R1 because that's what the whole neighborhood is, including the big structure that's there that's in the city right now. A lot of people think that's part of this same lot. It's not. So I'm in favor of this, and I appreciate that the owners are being thoughtful about it, and I appreciate the neighbors' comments that people understand, we've been lucky here to have some of this open space next to us, and perhaps neighbors could get together and try to preserve some as just open space for the city. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Councilor O'Doherty. Any other comments? All right, I just want to say thank you to the planning department for the work they've done on this. I think, whether right now it sounds kind of LR or R1, it's kind of a toss-up because of the space and how it's limited up there anyway. And so my perspective is moving forward as is, recognizing that the community seems to be in favor of something going there as long as we are doing it in a manner that is conscientious and smart. And so I believe that we can continue to move in that way. So clerk, if you can call the roll, that would be great.
Bowling.
Aye.
Freed,
Yes.
Lockhart.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Behill.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you. Moving on to number 15, Counselor Behill.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I move to approve Resolution 2025-29, amending City Council Rules of Procedure, creating rules for fifth Tuesday open house meetings as reflected in Attachment A, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by Behill, seconded by Newman. All right. Yes, ma'am, go right ahead.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The resolution before you tonight is a result of the work session that we held. So with that, we've tried to prepare the kind of guidelines for holding the fifth Tuesday meetings in an open format to allow for participants from the public to come in and share thoughts and comments, concerns that they might have with the council. A couple things that you asked for were 3 to 5 minutes for each person to speak. And for the location to travel around the city, so that's been included. There are a couple of proposed amendments in your agenda cover sheet or summary page, so if the council would like to look at those, they were proposed by Councilor or Vice Mayor Richardson, and so and Councilor Newman as well worked together to prepare those for you. So. Those are available. If you have any questions, staff are happy to answer. And with that, Mayor, I'll turn it back over to council.
Great, thank you. Perhaps before we move to amendments, do we, actually, let's go to amendments first and then go to the questions. That in my brain makes a little more sense. So amendments, I don't know, Councilor Behill, if you are ready and would like to propose?
Awesome, thank you.
Let's start with just the first one, and that way if there's any debate on it, we can do that separately.
Great, thank you, Vice Mayor. And so, Council, for you, in Attachment A, on page 8, this is just where I'm tracking, this is where that first one is coming from. So it reads as, I move to amend Resolution 2025-29, Rule 4.C.3 to read, when the meetings will occur on the fifth Tuesday in months, which a fifth Tuesday occurs from 6 to 7:30 p.m.
Second.
Motion by Behill, second by Newman. Any questions on this? Any discussion on this item? Yes, Councilor Shumway.
My question would be, should we have continuing interest after 7:30, can we vote to then, this is not a special meeting, so we can't really vote to extend the meeting. If it's a hard stop at 7:30, we just end the meeting at 7:30, correct?
Correct, as far as I know. City Clerk, would you be able to provide insight on that?
Yeah, I was hoping Bob would maybe weigh in on that too.
Bob.
I don't know. Bob, do you have an opinion?
City Attorney, would you like to share some insight?
I've always got something to say. You're worried about the hard stop at 7:30? Then somebody makes a motion to suspend the rules.
But it's not, you can't make motions.
Because it's just a work session, basically.
No, but you can make procedural motions. You're not making business decisions.
Okay.
Yeah, just as you'll have to make a motion. Are these going to be 3-minute talks or 5-minute talks?
And we will be noticing, oh, sorry.
No, please, go right ahead.
We will be noticing the meetings as well. So they are called meetings. So we're not taking action. So for what it's worth, I would agree with the city attorney.
Great, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Let's just open it up to both at this point. Councilor Newman.
So we got the same email about what happens if this happens in December and it's on, Christmas or New Year's Eve or whatever it is. I think that would be up to whatever council is seated, because currently, like the last council, we gave, that last couple meetings off for council and staff. And so I think instead of making that a hard rule, I would rather future councils make that decision and not me right now.
Other comments, questions? Yeah, and similarly, I think, to the hard stop at 7:30, we have in the past made the decisions about end-of-year meetings, as long as we are giving ample time and let the public know that we aren't holding those meetings, so that I think that would just be the procedure that we do if it happened to fall on a holiday at the end of the year. Is that what you would assume too, City Clerk?
I think that's correct.
Okay, great. Okay, Mayor, please.
I was just going to say that the December meeting is always going to fall near the 31st, near New Year's Eve. So it'll always be close to that. And I just think we stick to it. And as Councilor Newman said, we can decide during that time if we think we need to move it up a day or back a day to make it more convenient for the public to attend.
Great, thank you, Mayor. Okay, Councilor Freed.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor. I appreciate Councilor Newman's point, and there could be something pressing that makes sense for us to want to have a town hall in that timeline, and it's great to have this in there. Or, to the councilor's point, we can change it. So I really like the language. Thanks.
Great. All right. Any public comment on this amendment? On the amendment, public comment. Nothing in the room. Online, nothing there. All right, let's go ahead and move to the vote then, please. On the amendment, sorry.
Bowling.
Yes.
Freed.
Yes.
Lockhart.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Vigil.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Great, thank you, City Clerk. On to the next amendment.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Also tracking on attachment A on that same page, the resolution is as follows. I move to amend Resolution 2025-29, Rule 4.c.6 to read, broadcast. Any structured question and answer portion of the fifth Tuesday meetings will be available in hybrid format to include web conferencing for online participation and viewing.
Second.
Motion by Vigil, second by Newman. Any questions by the council on this amendment? Any comments? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, City Clerk.
So, Vice Mayor, if I could just make a point in just stating that the way this is written right now, it includes the Zoom option, but would not include broadcasting. So I just want to make sure that the council is clear on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any comments on this one? Okay, sorry, go ahead. Yes, Councilor Newman.
I do have a question
Okay.
before the comment.
Sure.
They will still be uploaded to YouTube and right afterwards?
Go ahead, City Clerk.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. To Councilor Newman, the videos would be available on Agenda Center. Typically, those aren't uploaded to YouTube unless they're broadcast, although we could potentially work with IT and see if they can upload that. I don't have the capability to do that part, but we do put those on Agenda Center for viewing of the public.
Any other questions? Yes, Councilor O'Doherty.
I thought the idea is that we're wandering around. So what is the video would be when if boards and commissions are making a presentation, but is it going to be a video of just a whole bunch of people walking and talking? And that doesn't sound very good quality. I don't see the point of that.
And Councilor Vigil.
That's a good question, Councilor O'Doherty. As I read the amendment, it says any structured question and answer portion. Yeah, yep.
Great. Mayor.
Thank you. I think that the format we've talked about is the first 30 minutes being the presentation of boards and commissions and people wandering around and us being there. The second 30 minutes being structured question and answer, possibly that goes over, and when that is over, then we mingle until the end, but there's a structured component in the middle after the first 30 minutes of board and commission presentations.
Great, thank you, Mayor. Any comment or question, Councilor Newman?
That's not in here. Unless I missed it, that's not in here, and I thought we were going to put it in there as well.
Can you expand on what you?
The structure that the mayor just
meeting?
talked about, right. I thought we talked about that, but it's not in the document. Unless I skipped over it. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. That was not included. I don't remember the exact timeframe that the mayor was just referencing being in our, I do remember having a discussion about being able to present information at the beginning and then having the structured question and answer timeframe. But I don't remember the mingling at the end. It is something that the council could amend and add into this if that's desired, to have that structure.
And I might just real quick note that, we are testing this out, and so having anything too tight in the language in this, we're going to have to come back and revise, right? So I think this is kind of a broad meeting, so this is to kind of guide us in that meeting, right? And so just keep that in mind. If we now implement something about 30 minutes, we have to follow that. And if we decide we want to do something a little bit differently for one of these meetings, we do not have that flexibility. Councilor Doherty.
Yeah, I would oppose putting actual structure for in the resolution, because it would depend on what's on the agenda, and some agenda things might take 10 minutes to have a presentation and then have, so I mean, we established that at the time we established an agenda. We don't have to put that in code or in the resolution. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Other comments or questions from Councilor Shumway?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm concerned that we are maybe limiting ourselves by having 30 minutes for boards and commissions, because I believe there's 26 of them. And then if we had questions, that would also expand that beyond the 30 minutes. I was hoping that the town hall format would be one where we do much more listening and very little participation from the council, because we're there to gather information rather than to have a back and forth. So I don't know what it's going to be like. I'm sure we're going to learn as we go, but I would like to make sure that we don't have the council occupy the time of the citizens that come to make reports or comments to us.
Great, thank you. All right, Councilor Newman.
But if I'm reading this correctly, there's actually no part in here that says anything about boards and commissions either. No. It just says that the public will have opportunities to ask questions. So there's really nothing in there saying that boards and commissions are coming either. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, back to having it pretty loose so that we can decide that as we go. Sorry, Councilor Bowling, did you have a comment or question?
No, I think you were covering it
Okay.
right there. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. City Clerk.
I believe during the work session, part of the discussion also was if there's a project going on in this city, that information could be presented during that beginning part when everybody is mingling, and gathering that information that may be presented on tables or whatnot, unless you did decide to have a formal presentation, and that's fine, for that too. But anyways, I just to kind of expand, I think the discussion at the work session was a little bit more broad than just boards and commissions, right, and included possible city projects as well.
Councilor Bowling.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And I'm sorry, just to follow up. I believe that the intent behind this is to deepen our community engagement, and that meeting will need to change from month to month, from meeting to meeting, from community to community, based on what's happening in our city at any given time. And this, as laid out right now, gives us that structure, but also that flexibility to determine what the needs are going to be for that community as we enter that community. So I think if we try and impose any more sort of idea of structure on it, we're going to end up finding ourselves needing to amend it.
Great, thank you. Councilor Freed.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor. And maybe my brain just summarizing, I really appreciate all the comments of council because, we're going to try to do so much of this. And I really like, Vice Mayor, your comments about, this is an early document that we're going to test in real time and get feedback and modify, and we have the ability to do that. So I like the looseness of this and being able to provide any sort of recordings when necessary. So I like it. Thanks.
Councilor Lockhart.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to just say, I agree with everybody, all the other counselors, because we want to encourage people to come. We want participation. And if we make it too strict, especially at the beginning, they're going to say, oh, it's just another meeting, we didn't get our say. And so, with us being two ears and or 2 eyes and whatever, 2 ears and 1 mouth, we want to listen more than we talk and just gather the information. So I like the quote-unquote looseness.
Great. All right. City Clerk.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I hate to be city clerk right now, but we do have a motion on the floor. And so we should keep the conversation germane to our, and I apologize, I didn't catch that sooner, but we were having good conversation.
I didn't catch it at all, so you caught it before me, which is great. Okay, so coming back to the original motion, which is, would you like to restate it, Council Behill?
This is thank you, Vice Mayor. This is the second proposed amendment. Is that what you're wanting me to repeat?
Yes.
Okay, great. I move to amend Resolution 2025-29, Rule 4.6, or 4.C.6 to read, broadcast any structured question and answer portion of the 5th Tuesday meetings will be available in hybrid format to include web conferencing for online participation and viewing.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing us back to where we need to be, City Clerk. Any public comment on this amendment specifically? Okay, any online? Don't see anybody there. All right, if you will call the roll on the amendment, please.
Bowling.
Yes.
Freed.
Aye.
Lockhart.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Behill.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 noes, Your Honor.
Thank you. And now to the original motion. Back to that. We've had a lot of question and comment that was probably to the original motion because we got wild. Does anybody, I'm going to give you one last chance, like one comment, but then we're like locking this down and taking a vote. Anybody? Any public comment or questions? Public can have as much time as 3 minutes, not as much time as you want. Okay, we'll call the roll on this, please.
Is this the motion?
This is the motion as amended. Thank you, Councilor Shumway, former mayor.
Bowling.
Aye.
Freed.
Yes.
Lockhart.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Behill.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 noes, Your Honor.
Great, thank you, City Clerk. Moving on to number 16, Councilor Bowling.
I move to approve Resolution 2025-34, amending City Council Rules of Procedure related to requests to moving items from consent agenda and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Moved by Bowling, second.
Second.
Seconded by Vigil. Would you like to speak to this one, City Clerk?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The proposal before you would amend this Section 5A of your current council agenda that allows members of the public to request an item be moved from consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda to be able to provide public comment. This amendment changes that in the respect that then members of the community would need to submit a written request to the council by Monday, not having it in front of me, I believe it's 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, thank you. To the council to request that an item be removed. So it's changing the time frame from when they would have to make that request. The purpose that has been provided to me was that it would allow council more time to consider whether or not you would like to move that item from consent to regular rather than making a split-second decision. But with that, that's the background information I have for you. Thank you, Mayor.
Great, thank you, City Clerk. Any questions on this item? Councilor Lockhart.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. question / comment. I know we hadn't discussed this before, so I don't really know where it came from, but my question is, how is this giving the public any more? The public's not getting enough time, in my opinion, especially if there's a consent agenda item walked on after 5 p.m. on Monday. Okay, so then it's on there on Tuesday, and they did not see it. So my question is, how is this giving them enough opportunity, because they won't be able to have public comment on Tuesday during our meeting if they request us to remove it and put it onto to the regular agenda? I guess it's a question comment.
Councilor O'Doherty.
We've been accused of railroading things. I don't think we're railroaders either, and we're not the Hitchhiker's Guide, and we're not railroaders. And I would like to ask the former mayor if you recall times when something came in on a Monday to put on the consent agenda that was something that, instead of like this, we have this opportunity for a grant or whatever, we could just say we're not going to put it on the consent agenda. We all have that ability. So if you're worried about something getting railroaded, you should speak up and say, we'll put it on the regular agenda. So I'd like to ask, if it's okay, our former mayor, do you remember a lot of railroading happening on the consent agenda?
Former Mayor Shumway.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would say it was possible, but I think the best person to answer that would be our city clerk. So if it'd be okay with you, I'd like to ask our city clerk if she
City clerk.
She would be the one processing it.
Vice Mayor, thank you. I'm not exactly sure how to answer that question. Can I have you repeat it once for me?
May I?
Yes, please.
If something came on, some emergency thing comes up, and it's always something like some time, some deadline thing, the council, it's impingent on us to not put it on the consent. We would say, this is something that we need to give the public time to comment on. I was just wondering, I don't remember times of things being put on the consent agenda, like on the last minute, and all this railroading that apparently some people think we do. Oh, it was in the email that we got about this. So I just.
Yeah, please,
Yeah, I think it's difficult to ask the clerk about railroading. I think that this is set up, the consent agenda is set up so that any counselor, for any reason, can move something from the consent to the regular agenda. They don't need to explain, they don't need to convince anybody, they can just do it.
City Manager.
If I could just tag on that, it is the city manager's responsibility to prepare the business items for your agenda, and I can tell you in my time here, we have not railroaded any business items onto the agenda. It always is at the discretion of the council, and from my standpoint, I won't allow my staff to bring last-minute walk-on items unless they have a true sense of business urgency.
Mayor Cumby.
Thank you. Just to clarify, I'm the one that wrote this, and I did it because I felt that when we initiated that, because of Robert's Rules of Order and the way that it needs to progress through the council process, a person can request for it to be moved. There's no discussion allowed, so we can't ask them why, any rationale. The agenda goes out on Friday at noon. It allows somebody in excess of 72 hours to take a look at what's on the consent, to write council or contact council, and this has happened many times in the past where we have been contacted and we have moved it because of that contact and because that person was able to express to us their rationale. And I had a long discussion today from where I'm located with the constituent that brought this up. And I felt like we came to a good agreement that it provides the constituent more of a say and an interaction with council about why they believe that needs to be moved. And most times we will move that, but when it's presented cold and we can't have discussion, then it's hard to know what to do. And I thought it really impeded process rather than facilitated it. So then I wanted to present it to council so that we could vote as to whether we thought somebody just moving it in a meeting was efficacious, or if maybe having some early warning and be able to interact with that person might really be more in depth and give us better understanding of what we're doing. So that's why I did it.
Great, thank you. And I've got a quick question as well. Would having this on a Monday at 5 p.m. preclude any of us from bringing it off of the consent agenda if we saw it on, if it came through on Tuesday? So does this rule preclude us from bringing something if that email came through on Tuesday morning? Any of us could still do this. So really, that time and date is not important. Would that be correct?
Yes, that'd be correct.
Okay.
Nothing will prevent you at the beginning of a meeting from moving something onto the regular agenda.
Great. Councilor Lockhart, do you have another question?
Yes, kind of a follow-up. Thank you, Mayor, or Vice Mayor, and thank you, Mayor Cumby, because there was no explanation. There's no discussion on this, why, but it just does seem like we just changed this to allow the public, and then all of a sudden we're changing it again. So it seemed like we just changed it, if I'm not mistaken, and a few weeks later we're changing it again. So that was my concern, is we told them that they could do this, and now we're giving them the written. But I understand why, so we have time for discussion. That's what I needed, was some discussion and some input on it. But the railroad comment, Councilor Doherty threw me off because I didn't know where that was coming from. I'm like, I didn't say that. So it must have been in that email. So, but anyway, we're all clear. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other questions?
I have.
Okay, moving on to comments. Go ahead, Councilor Doherty, let's start with you.
The thing was, we were testing this, and one of the first tests was someone who usually gives us a heads up about things they're not happy about, that they think we shouldn't put on the consent, but then it was, this should be pulled. And then the mayor asked everybody if they want to pull it, but we all read our packet and knew why it was on the consent agenda, so nobody jumped up. So then the mayor just has to say it's not pulled to the public, and then it looks like she's turning them down. But it's up to us to pull things from the consent agenda. And I think it's just our responsibility that if you think something doesn't belong on the consent agenda, that I just don't see it coming in at 5 o'clock, and surprising everybody and being something, like we would put it on the regular agenda. So we have that opportunity, and thank you.
Councilor Shumway.
A comment. I'm going to speak opposing this, and the reason is because, first of all, I don't think the public will generally know that there's a deadline. And the second thing is, that's what we're good at, is making split-second decisions. And if we're not sure, just move it on to the regular agenda and talk about it.
Any other comments? Councilor Newman.
I have two comments, if that's okay.
Sure.
My first one is I will not support this either, and I've already talked to the mayor about why, but I think this is going backwards from what we have tried to do with letting somebody in person come and ask. Because what if, and hypothetically, and somebody can call me out for this, what if they don't have email? I know everybody does, but what if they don't, right? What if it's an elder that wants to come in and do something. I think this is going backwards, in my opinion. So I will not support this, and I've already talked to the mayor about this. My second comment was, when I brought this up to change in the beginning, I asked for public comment on why they wanted to and limit it to a minute. And this is the exact reason why, is when Mr. Glass got up there and he couldn't say anything, that was a problem. So I just wanted on record that I tried to fix this in the beginning and council changed it.
Any other comments? Yes, Councilor Freed.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor. I will say, it also says they can submit a letter, so they don't have to have email, but an old-fashioned letter. Could also do that by Monday. But, I will support this because I think, we're testing this out. We're trying to figure out a way to give the voice to the public, and also we still ultimately can change anything off the consent agenda if we get a phone call, whether or not an email. But this, I think, is more transparent to the public. If they're paying attention to our process, or if they're new to city council procedures and understanding, this gives them a way to submit their questions or their concerns to us. So I like it. Thanks.
Councilor Bowling.
I also feel like all this simply does is give the public a deadline for a formal request, right? It doesn't prevent any member of the public from emailing any member of council independently and saying, hey, this is concerning me, can you pull it? And then any member of this body can do that, at 6:30. So it just puts a formality in place for a deadline in place for submitting a formal request. And then nothing beyond that really changes at all.
Other than they can't come here.
Order, please. So I think I skipped questions, and we've kind of mixed questions and comments, if I remember correctly, which is just fine. So coming back to that, some of the concerns that I've heard is that it's requiring people to have an email. There is an opportunity for anyone here, if you would also like to amend this to include a phone call to the city clerk's office, who could then share the concerns. Also, in thinking about this, because I do appreciate that note about technology, I hadn't thought about that before, but I think there is a solution to that. I also think about giving the public a minute to comment if there was a line of folks. Now we're using that time that we'd usually have for the consent agenda on discussing the consent agenda items. I appreciate this in that I too would like to hear more reasoning behind it. And sometimes a minute isn't enough to explain that reasoning, but in an email you have all the room that you need to. So I think that's beneficial. And while I like the idea of, making this more open and getting more feedback from the public, we have also, hoping that when we sit down with city staff, the mayor and I, to look at that consent agenda, that we talk through all of those things and really think about whether it should or shouldn't be on there. And so that's kind of our role. Having somebody reach out via email or a phone call, I don't think that takes that away. We're now putting it in writing to say we'd prefer that so we can really understand what you're thinking. And so I am leaning towards this as well. I feel like it actually maybe provides a little, it clarifies things a little bit more and gives that avenue perhaps for people who can't come down here to ask for it to be pulled off. It clarifies that they don't have to come down here to have it pulled off. They can email or call or whatever as well, although we don't have call in the current amendment. So I think I will leave it at that. Public comment on this agenda item. Anyone looking for public comment? Hello. You're jingling right on up. Welcome. If you'll please state your name for the public.
Christopher Stratton, Laramie 24/7. On this, I do understand Newman's end of it, and the other big aspect is, yes, there may be a possibility, but again, we have never seen that actually happen. I think the capability, they're able to communicate towards email, et cetera, I'm sure that if you even put it in the current bill for a call, that would work as well, limiting that end. But truthfully, what you guys have set up and what you're doing right now is much more publicly engaged, and I do feel that this is going to be a pullback and kind of a gatekeeping effort. Thank you.
Come on up, please, sir. State your name.
Eric Henderson, citizen of Laramie. I really appreciated the consideration to be allowed to request removal of items from consent agenda. Given the attendance on many issues, I would hate to see a chill of such a guideline even being in place. I would much rather the maintenance of the ability and the willing welcome of each and every one of you to reach out in any fashion, however it comes, be it any. And I think that this is a reversal of that, and hopefully I was louder. My apologies. That's all I really have. I think the spirit of my comment is taken. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right. We'll move to the vote. Oh, sorry. Councilor Shumway.
From what I understand, and if I'm wrong, hopefully I am, my understanding is if this passes, we no longer offer to the public on city council meeting a minute to get up and request to have an item removed from the consent agenda. Now, if I'm wrong, I'll support this. If they still have the opportunity to come on Tuesday and request something to be moved from consent to the regular agenda, I'll support it. But my understanding is this precludes that, so the public doesn't have an opportunity during the city council meeting to make that request.
Thank you, Councilor Shumway. That is my understanding as well, unless one of city staff can correct us on that.
That is the way that I interpreted this as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. If you will call the roll, please.
Bowling.
No.
Freed.
Yes.
Lockhart.
No.
Newman.
No.
O'Doherty.
No.
Shumway.
No.
Behill.
No.
Richardson.
No.
Cumbie.
Yes.
That's 2 yeses and 7 noes, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. Moving on to item 17, public comment on non-agenda items. Any public comment? Looks like we're good there. All right. Consideration for future work council work session topics. Going once, going twice.
Give them next time because my computer decided to restart. So.
Oh, well, that's fun. All right. Okay.
Right here.
Good. Oh, thank you. Yes, Councilor Lockhart.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to remove my policies for commercial nuisances request. If anybody has any questions, get hold of me. I did have a quick sit down with the Assistant City Manager and Mr. Teeny about some questions I had, and they very much clarified a lot of things. So at this point, I'd like to remove that from my request.
Great. Do we need a second person to say yes to that?
Since it does take a second to place that on the agenda, I would say yes.
A second to remove it?
I'll second.
Okay. Well, you got a whole room full of seconds on that. Anybody you want to choose? That's great on that. Well, thank you for doing the work on that and determining that. Yes, Councilor O'Doherty.
Vice Mayor, I'm not sure which item that is referring to.
That is
Last one.
Policy, okay, I don't know why I can't read today. Thank you.
I'm okay with it too.
great. Other topics? Okay. Moving on to Councilor O'Doherty, item number 19.
I move to adjourn to executive session regarding litigation, Wyoming statute 16-4405, lowercase a, Romanet 3.
Moved by Councilor O'Doherty, seconded by Vigil. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Okay, great. We are adjourned to executive session. Why don't we take 5 minutes?